I'd like to give you my big takeaways. I want to hear yours, and we're going to break the whole thing down. My first takeaway was TCU getting hosed. The second takeaway is Clemson getting a lot of praise, in my opinion, a lot on historicals versus what we've seen. I think TCU's path has been dramatically more challenging than Clemson's path in terms of opponents played. And I thought out of all the teams that were talked about tonight, the team that got respected the most was Texas A&M, because it looks like a win over A&M just pulls you right up the charts, which blew my mind when I looked at where some of the teams were after close games against Jimbo Fisher's team. Now, with that said, there's some facts that I think are important. 5 teams from the Pac-12 hop into the top 25, 5 from the SEC and the ACC, 4 from the Big 12 and the Big 10. So mathematically, there's some nice balance where we kick this thing off. But I was a little bit surprised on the things that I referenced. Clint, I'd like to start with you. Your initial thoughts, and then we're going to break it down. We'll start at our top 4, top 6, top 8, and kind of see if we think there should be some movement.
Yeah, I mean, guys, for me, I think the first thing that sticks out is Tennessee at number 1. I think they got that right. I think they got it absolutely right. When you look at the eye test, when you look at the, Heisman candidate that's running the show, when you look at the resume, obviously, I think the right thing to do at this point in time was for Tennessee to be the number 1 team in the country. I'm fine with Ohio State and Georgia where they're at. Makes sense. Ohio State with a little bit of validation last week, beating a ranked team, beating a team that's above 500 in Penn State. And then, as you mentioned, you get to Clemson. I just don't know how on God's green earth anybody that's been watching college football this year thinks Clemson is the number 4 ranked team in America right now. I don't know how you get there. I think there's several teams that could be in that position. And you mentioned them: TCU, Michigan. For starters, the undefeated 2. So I think 1 and 4 are the 2 that stuck out for me. Good job. I tip my cap to the committee for getting Tennessee right and not just putting Georgia or Ohio State there because of the logo and because the history, if you will. And then on the flip side of it, number 4, I just don't know how you put Clemson there. I know why you do. Because they're more than likely going to run the table and they're already in. So you're going to have to find a reason to justify moving them out. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me there at number 4.
Trev?
I wonder, at the first college football rankings that we came out tonight, did they sit around this table for a week and really get into the nitty gritty? Is there really that much stress in the room? Undo the tie, sweating, bring in more water. I don't think there is. And the reason behind that is I think they missed on a couple of these teams here. And you guys touched on them. I think as they get to the real deal, where we're really trying to pick the Final Four, where it's got bowl implications, where it's got national championship implications, that's when the stress sets in. The criteria and the rubric, I think, has to be much more broad at this point in the race, and it gets narrower and narrower and narrower as we get into the season. I'm with you, Clint. I like the Tennessee pick at the top. I think they have the most moxie and the most and I'm going to use this word, adrenaline. They're fed by adrenaline. And they've got adrenaline moving through this season. Now, you look at it, Tennessee, Georgia, both top 4 teams. One of them is going to be out after this weekend, right? So you can write a whole bunch of storylines and hoop and howl over a bunch of different things, but there will be tons of movement in this top 25. I was watching the show, and I do think that this was an interesting stat. Tennessee getting the number 1 nod there in the first college football rankings. There's only one team in the college football playoff era that got ranked number 1 in the first ranking and did not finish in the top 4, and that was Mississippi State with Dak Prescott. Oh, wow. So getting the number 1 seed does say a lot historically about that team, and so we'll see if Josh Heupel can do it. They interviewed him afterwards. He had a big old smile on his face. It was a whole lot of fun to watch. And I think he's doing real big things. But overall thoughts. You could slice and dice this a million ways, which I know we're about to, but I like Tennessee at the top. I think the rubric's really, really broad at this point.